Hi everybody, I'm Howie Silverman. I'm on Musicians on the Record today with David Ward. I'm very excited about this interview. Let's get into it, David.
Hi, welcome to Musicians on the Record. I'm David Ward. This is the show where we get the musician's story, and I'm really excited. Today on the show, we've got, they're all musicians, but this guy is an incredible real musician. Howie Silverman is on the show, drummer, pianist, xylophone. Anything else you play, Howie? Did I miss something?
No, that's it. Composing. Composition's a big thing.
Yeah, that's incredible. Now, you've played with Dizzy Gillespie, and I want to talk a lot about that and how all of that happened. But let's start with your story, Howie. How did you even get into drums and music in the first place?
I actually wanted to be a piano player when I was 9 years old.
Okay.
But my parents weren't into giving lessons to the boys in the family, only the girls in the family. Uh-huh. For whatever reason, they felt that the girls should learn how to play the piano. You know? We did the boys did the chores, a very European style family and old school way of thinking. And so we would do the chores with my dad, and the girls got to have the piano lessons.
Okay. But the piano was the first thing that called to you musically, sounds like.
Yeah, it did. Yeah. So I would pick up stuff by ear on the piano. Okay. And then when I couldn't get any piano lessons, I saw pictures of drums. I saw a picture of my dad when he was a young teenager on a set of drums, going through the family album and stuff. And maybe it was a subconscious thing, but I built myself a set of drums out of cardboard and aluminum foil wrap and duct tape. And I made this drum set.
Wow, that's great. How old were you?
I was 10 and a half.
10 and a half. Amazing.
10 and a half years old, almost 11.
Amazing.
And then I started to listen to my father had a great record collection of all the big bands. Okay. So I'd listen to that music a lot. I listened to the Supremes, the Beatles, all the bands that were happening back then. And I started practicing on these drums that I built myself, every day. Wow. Made my own sticks. And by the time I was 12 years old, my mother convinced my dad to buy me a drum pad and some sticks. Okay. And then I started practicing on the drum pad with these real sticks. And then she convinced them to buy just a cheap set of drums for me. Okay. So I started playing on the drums. And then I saw a couple of videos of Buddy Rich, and he just blew me away. Yeah. So then I decided I wanted to get some drum lessons. Okay. So I went to a local music store in the area and found a drum teacher there. Okay. I was fortunate. This guy had a great command of traditional grip. So he showed me the very basic traditional grip stuff, and I just I took to it like a fish to water.
Amazing.
And my parents had these old dining room chairs with the arms on them. Yeah. So I would take my arm and I'd strap it down. Yeah. And strap the other one down and going like this and strapping it down. Wow. So I'd just only be able to use my wrists and my fingers.
Interesting.
So by the time I was 14, I had a lot of heavy duty chops.
Amazing.
By the time I was 16, I was just tearing up the drums. I actually remember going to see Buddy Rich at the Imperial Room in Toronto doing a show. And I went backstage to meet him.
Wow.
And, he's not the easiest guy to talk to.
Yeah. Yeah, I've heard.
But I introduced myself, and I told him that he's my hero. I love him. I learned all his albums, which I did. Wow. I transcribed all his stuff. I was playing all his licks and everything else by the time I was 16. Amazing. I spent, I think, from 13 and a half until 16 doing nothing but Buddy Rich transcriptions.
So you were learning to read music as well, obviously.
Learning to read music as well and doing a lot of stuff by ear. Yeah. Wow. So by then I had my drum set, and then I'd go out and I had little pieces to my drum set. Then I got 2 bass drums, and then I got a couple tom-toms and more cymbals. Then I fell in love with Louis Bellson.
Yes. Yeah, that's great.
Right? So a lot of stuff I was doing was self-taught, but I had some good basic instruction. Right? Okay. Then when I was almost 17, there was a buddy of mine who was studying with this guy in New York named Jim Blackley. I don't know if you ever heard that name.
I haven't, no.
Yeah, Jim Blackley. Anyways, he changed my friend's playing unbelievably. He became so musical and such a sensitive player. I had to see this guy.
Yeah.
So I asked him if he would do me a favor and give my name to him, and I had to go to New York, get an audition. So I was all excited, went to this guy's studio, brought a briefcase full of all these books I wanted to learn. I came up there, and I turned them right off.
Oh.
I put all these books down. I want to learn this. I want to learn that. So I didn't realize at the time, I'm like 16 years old. I'm just a kid.
Sure.
I'm very eager.
Yeah.
But this is a master teacher. He had his own format.
Got it.
And I'm coming in and telling him, this is what I want to learn.
Right.
So he very politely packed up all my books, put them back in my briefcase, and he said, this is not what I teach. Took me to the door, put me out the door, and closed the door.
Ouch. Ouch.
Yeah. It was pretty heavy.
Yeah.
It was pretty heavy.
And so there was no opportunity to kind of say, okay, man, I'll do it your way for a while. Or were you not there at 16 either?
No, he just closed the door, and then I was left in this hallway. I went back down the stairs. I started to cry. And I went back home.
Yeah.
And I was pretty depressed for a couple months. Didn't figure out what I did wrong.
Yeah.
Asked my friend what I did wrong.
Yeah.
I sensed that he knew what was going on. I said, look, I think you know what's going on. You got to tell me what I did. I don't know what I did to insult this guy.
Sure.
But you got to talk to him and tell him that I'll come back and I'll just do whatever he wants. You know.
Yeah.
So it took about 3 months in total, and then he decided that he'll give me a second chance to come back.
Okay. Cool.
I came back, no books, just my humble self with my stick bag, and I apologized that I don't know what I did. I really apologize. You know, it will never happen again. Okay. So I'm here. I'm bearing myself to you. Just tell me what I need to do. You know, because what you've done for my friend is incredible. So he said, okay. So he said, no books. I'm not teaching you from any of those books. I said, that's cool. That's fine. So he had this small little drum set in the middle of the studio, and he said, okay, sit down and play me a single stroke roll. So I played slow, and I built it up really to my best speed. Yeah. And he asked me to play a double stroke roll, and he asked me to play a single paradiddle. Okay. And after that, he stopped me, and he goes, wow, you have a lot of chops. How old are you? I said, 16. He goes, wow. You have enough chops for 10 lifetimes. Oh. You know, what are you planning on doing with all those chops? And I didn't know what to answer him. You know, he goes, who's your favorite drummer? I said, Buddy Rich. I said, I love Buddy Rich. You know, I play all this stuff and everything. So he said, either you're going to listen to Buddy and play like Buddy and not work with too many people, or you're going to listen to me and you're going to become a musician's musician and work with everybody. I said, yes, of course, of course. I'll do whatever you say, you know. Yeah. So he had a system of of you finding your own voice, like creating your own voice. You know, he was not a technician. He didn't have a lot of chops, but he had that inner sense of what it took to be very supportive in a musical sense from the drummer. And he helped you find your sweet spot, as I call it, in playing the time, right? And so he specialized, at the time I didn't know this, but he specialized in developing the triplet on the ride cymbal. Oh, wow. Right? So for an example, if I can give you a quick example.
Sure,
you know,
please.
You think of one triplet, two triplet, and so on, right? Yes. And he wants you to play the let of the triplet. Okay. So he would get you to move very similar to what the MOTR technique is all about, the downstroke and the free stroke, and so he would get this whipping action with the arm, and you would practice on 40 on the metronome with the triplet. That is super slow. Yes. So for the first month, I would go home and practice the triplet, playing quarter notes, one triplet, two trip, and then play the let on the tube. Okay. 2 and the 4, so you're going 1 triplet, 2 triplet. You're playing the let there, right?
So accenting the let.
Yeah, the triplet, right? Yes. And then playing the quarter note on the 3, and then the 4, playing the let again. So eventually, when you play it fast, you're going 1 triplet, 2 triplet, ding, gang, bang, bing, gang, right? So for the first month, I practiced at 40, and I went back to my lesson, That's all he wanted to see me do, is the right hand playing the time, right? Then I graduated to play up to 60 for the next month. So then I practiced at 60 the next month, and then the next month I went up to 80, right? Until I really ingrained the motion of the arm, the freedom of the arm, and really getting that triplet feel down. Because a lot of drummers that are here, when they play the swing feel, even if they play the reverted swing, where they're playing like an 8-note thing, it sounds like stiff, stagnant. The triplet's not in the right place, and as a result, doesn't really swing the way it could really swing, you know. And the one thing about Buddy, though, he could swing his ass off, you know. He could swing his ass off, you know.
No doubt.
And you listen to his ride cymbal, and that is exactly what Jim was teaching, right? Jay Canna, I don't know, you know Jay Canna, the drummer?
I do not, no.
Jay Canna was like right up there with Buddy, but he was one of these like studio players that guys would call all the time. A lot of chops, never showed his chops, but had amazing time, amazing feel, you know, had that swing his ass off, right?
Amazing.
So that Jim helped me to develop that. And then he said to me, you need to like buy a piano and learn how to play the piano and start studying composition.
Interesting.
He said, do not practice any technique. Just practice what I show you. So I practiced the ride. Then he had a series of like Charleston figures, he called them. A Charleston figure, like it's similar to what Dom teaches, a downbeat, upbeat. Okay. There's a number of variations, like the book Accents and Rebounds. You know, syncopation. There's another book out, syncopation. So it's all about like playing like a combination of figures like God, 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 right? That's one Charleston figure, right? Okay. So then you practice that on the drums and break the accents up and get that ingrained in your body, you know. And before I knew it, I was developing a real sweet spot for the time and for the feel, you know, of the music. And then I started studying piano. And Jim said to me, and that really turned me around, because I went to study drums with this guy, thinking he's going to turn me into the best drummer I can be. But inadvertently, he was turning me into the best musician I can be, which ultimately made me a way better drummer. And by the time I was like 19, I got a gig with Joe Williams. And Joe, when I first played with Joe, when we were playing at a concert, he kept turning around like, going like this to me all the time, turning around and going, uh-oh, what's going on? You know, what am I doing wrong?
Right.
But on the contrary, he came up to me and go, man, you have such a sweet spot. And
that's great.
That sweet spot, that groove, you know, that triplet feel, you know, the way you play the time, you know, is awesome, you know. And so then slowly I started to incorporate a little more chops into my playing, but I didn't focus at all on my chops. Like when I played a drum solo, which I rarely did, I sort of went the complete extreme. I went from playing drum solos to no drum solos. I just wanted to play not just the time, but I wanted to play the music within the time. And I started to relate to the music in a whole different way. When I started to learn how to improvise on the piano, and then I started to learn how to compose and write compositions and arrange music, boom, something opened up in my ears. I never heard the drums the same way again.
Interesting.
And then when I started to play with the musicians, I had a different sensitivity to the soloist, right?
Can you give us an example of that, Howie? Because I've heard this from other musicians too. Different instruments improves, expands their drumming. How can you give one sort of specific example of how playing the piano or the composition led to that improvement in your drumming?
Okay. There's a lot of great drummers out there that have incredible technique and they do amazing things, right? And I've experienced this myself, like when I'm playing piano and I'm playing with the drummer and I'm playing a line and he's mimicking the rhythmic thing right back to me right away. So I'm playing and I go, oh, okay. And then I'm playing something else and oh, he's right in my face, you know? And it's like he's all over me, you know, like especially because I'm very rhythmic being a drummer. So when I'm playing the piano, I tend to be very rhythmic. So I'd stop and go, hey, you got to back off a little. You know, it's like I can't play anything. I feel it's like, think of it as having a conversation with somebody. If I say to you, hey man, I went down to Florida and I was walking along the beach, and you go, yeah, you went down to Florida, you're walking along the beach, and I saw this amazing couple swimming in the water, and this dolphin came up. Yeah, this amazing couple and the dolphin. After a while, I'm going to go, will you shut up?
Right.
You know, they stop repeating everything I say to me. You know, it's like, it's like if I go, yeah, I went down to Florida, you go, wow, Florida, man, that's awesome.
Yeah.
You know, then we're having an exchange, right?
Yes.
So the biggest thing that I became so sensitive to right away was like not mimicking what the soloists are doing from a rhythmic point of view. Okay. Giving them the space, right, and supporting them. If they're saying something in their line and rhythmically at the same time, I'm going to let that go, keep playing the time, and really be supportive and suggest something in response to what they're playing, not playing back what they just played to me. That was the biggest thing that changed for me right away, because a lot of players do that, you know, and then everybody thinks, wow, we're really connecting, we're really communicating, you know. Well, all you're doing is you're just mimicking back to me what I just played, you know, and I don't think that is really the best way to play. Yeah. And the best way to play is to bounce off each other, like you're having a conversation, right? And so that was the biggest thing. And I started to play less. That was the big thing, because it became more aware, like, of what's going on harmonically, melodically, and not just the rhythmic aspect of things, you know.
Yeah, I think that's incredible. And, you know, you're the first and foremost job of a drummer is to keep the time and serve the rest of the music, right?
I have an issue with that.
Okay, tell me about that.
Yeah, I have an issue with that, first and foremost, as a drummer, keeping the time.
Okay.
Right? Because I worked with I worked with Flip Phillips. You know who Flip Phillips was?
I do not. No.
Flip Phillips was like one of the pioneers of the jazz saxophone. Mm-hmm. Like, but by the time I worked with him, I think I was 21. Okay. And he was one of the big leaders of the time, but from the 50s, 60s. You know, like old sort of style, sort of mainstream, not really bop. You know, very melodic flair. Okay. And so I remember the first night I was playing with this guy, I phoned up my parents and I said, man, my dad loved Flip Phillips. Like, Flip Phillips was from his era, right? You know, around the Second World War and all that kind of stuff that time. So I phoned up my dad. I said, man, you should come down to this club I'm playing at. Check it out. I'm playing with Flip Phillips. He goes, you're kidding. I said, no, you got to come down. I'm playing with this guy, man. This is like one of the pioneers of the music that he's playing, you know? Sure. So we had a heavyweight band. So I'm up there. First set started. I'm playing ding 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 ga ding 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 ga ding 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 ding. And I'm going, yeah, I'm happening. I'm playing. I'm doing my thing. And he's playing the sax, and he's going like this, you know. And I'm going again. Uh-oh.
Right.
Something's going on. Right. You know, when they start doing that, it's either a good thing or a bad thing.
Right.
You know?
Right.
But he's such a sweet guy. At the end of the set, he said, "Oh, come on, let me go buy you a drink at the bar." Then I knew something's up. Yeah. So, but he's such a sweetheart of a guy. We sat at the bar, and he said to me, "Have you ever heard of the phrase tick a boom?" Mm. And I said, "Tick a boom. Can't say that I have." Mm. Give me an example. He goes, "Check this out." He goes, tick a boom, 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 tick. Ah, I got it, Flip. Okay, man, I know what you want, right? It's kind of that old style, like 4 on the bass drum, 2 on the hi hat, and triplet on the ride cymbal. Ding, ding, a ding, ding, a ding. There's the tick a boom, tick a boom, tick a boom, tick a boom, right? Yep. And 4 on the. Wanted to hear that boom, 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 boom. Quiet, not loud. You know, like Gene Krupa style, right? Boom, 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 boom. And 2 on, I don't even know if Gene Krupa played 2 and 4 on the hi-hat, but there was always that big, huge 28-inch bass drum. Right. Boom, 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 boom. Tick-a-doon, 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 you know? Yeah. That's what he wanted, you know? So I did that the whole week, and it cooked, right? It cooked, but very restrictive from my point of view. Like, I couldn't do anything else. Don't play an accent on the left hand. Don't give me that fancy stuff on the bass drum. Mm-hmm. You know, don't do any syncopation with your left foot. Play this so I could do my thing. Yeah. Right? That was the style. Sure. Who am I to argue with that? Mm-hmm. I'm not reinventing the wheel. Right. Like, you created this music. I wasn't even born yet. Yeah. Who am I to say, hey, man, I'm not going to play it this way. Right. I'm coming into your home, I'm coming into your country, I'm going to learn the language,
Sure.
you know, and I'll speak the language, you know,
Okay.
out of respect, you know. So
Yes.
it was great. But what I did find working with a lot of those guys, it was restrictive. Restrictive in terms of what I can do, what I wanted to do. I honestly didn't want to sit there the whole time and just play ding, ding, a ding, ding, a ding, ding, a ding, ding.
Sure.
Actually, one of my closest friends is a brilliant piano player, would always say to me, I admire drummers for their discipline because it takes a lot to sit there and just play that triplet the right way over and over and over. And I go, don't give me that jive, man.
Yeah.
You know, I want to hear that from you.
Right.
You're my contemporary, okay? Like, you're expecting me to sit there and just play that all night long so you can tear up the piano and do all your thing? I said, that doesn't cut it for me.
Right.
You know, so I started to search for a way of playing the time where I could have my freedom and still everybody knew where it was.
Yeah.
Everybody could I wasn't like playing, I wasn't superimposing 12 on 10 and 5 on 4 and 3 against 2 and all that. No, I was just displacing the beat, playing my musical ideas based on what I heard, you know.
Right.
And I started to find my own voice. And I remember Jim, when he heard me play that way, he came up to he goes, that is your voice. Like, keep developing that because that's your signature. That's your voice. That separates you from everyone else.
Yes.
That's what everybody tries to find is their own voice, right? Not the sound of the tuning of the drums, but how you interpret the music, right?
That's right. Yeah, how you play.
So
yeah.
that was a real turning point for me. So I'm kind of sensitive to that. I don't like, for me personally, when I'm playing piano on a gig, for a drummer just to play the time.
Yeah.
And I want the interaction. I want him to kick me. I want him to kick my butt, you know, and suggest ever avenues of where I can go based on what I'm playing, you know.
Having some creativity within that time, right? So it sounds like, you know, you have this passion for drums that's happening, Howie. You're committed to this teaching. You're working with folks like Joe Williams. What was the dream that was developing for you of maybe playing professionally, and when did that start to happen that you said, I could do this professionally?
I actually got my first professional gig at 14 and a half. I looked older because I was maturing and I already was shaving on the sides.
Is that right? That's great.
So I auditioned for this band, and they loved my playing, and they asked me how old I was. I said 18. So they said, okay, and I got hired to play at a summer resort for 3 months.
Wow.
Man, it was awesome. And then when I was up there, that's when I first heard Joe Morello play with Dave Brubeck. That's when Take 5 was a big thing.
Sure.
That's when I knew that was it for me. I was going to go pro.
Wow.
I was going to be a pro.
So 14, you decided.
Yeah, I decided at 14.
Yeah. And this was in Canada?
In Canada.
Yeah. Awesome.
So I came back home. I was in middle school then. Okay. So by the time I was in grade 10, I was already working with Rob McConnell and the Boss Brass. Do you know that?
I do not. No.
Ed Bickard. Ed Bickard. You know Ed Bickard?
I don't, but these are all names to Google for me, and I love the history lesson part of it, and for people watching, Google all these names, right?
So the bottom line is, like, I was in grade 10, and I was already working in the studios. I was doing shows. I was playing in the jazz clubs.
Yeah.
And I was 17 years old.
Amazing.
And when I was 17, I got this gig with Don Thompson and Ed Bickard. I don't know if you know those names. Don Thompson is this famous piano player, bass player, vibraphone player, composer. He's a brilliant musician. Wow. And Ed Bickard is this world-class guitar player, right? So actually, Jim Blackley got me this gig. And he brought Jake Canna in to see me play because he wanted Jake to speak to Woody Herman to see if I could get the audition for Woody Herman's big band. Right?
That's pretty cool. Yeah.
But my parents didn't want me to go to the States. They wanted me to finish school.
Well, it sounds like with your folks, they were pretty supportive. Except they.
Not really. You know what?
No.
They let me do the thing.
Yeah.
But I wanted to quit school.
Yeah.
Like, I actually, in grade 10, I was studying with Jim already. Yeah. Then I found a classical piano teacher from New York. Okay. Jim was in New York. I wanted to go to Berkeley and study. And so I put a book together this thick through the summer of all the things my goals were for music that I wanted to study. Orchestration, line writing, all these things. So my parents wouldn't hear of it. You know, they wanted me to finish high school and graduate, get my degree, get a real job, right? So I went to high school, struggled through high school, studied privately, still went to New York, studied with Jim, studied with these people. I was determined to make it happen for myself. So by the time I was 17, I was already starting to work with some really good people.
Yeah.
And by the time I finished high school, I moved out. I was like 19. I was on my own. Then I started to get some really good gigs. I started to take off. And then I started to work with international people like Art Farmer, Don Menza, Zoot Sims, Pepper Adams, you know, these guys,
Yeah.
right?
What would you consider that when you got that big break that you started being able to play professionally like that, besides being at 14?
Well, this is it. I knew this is what I was going to do for the rest of my life. This is what I wanted to do, you know, and I was starting to live my dream, right? So, and then I finally got my own house, you know, and then I formed an 18-piece big band that I was writing for, and then formed my own bands. Yeah. And then I hooked up with this recording artist in Canada, Mo Kaufman. I don't know if you've ever heard that name.
I haven't, no.
Mo Kaufman wrote this signature tune called Swingin' Shepherd Blues. It went viral. It went huge. Okay. And he had a big recording career and touring career. He was very well known internationally, even though you don't know who he was.
Right. Yes.
This is going back like 35 years. And he was a contractor and a big studio player in Toronto. So when I got in with him, it opened up a lot of doors for me.
Okay.
And I started to work with a lot of people, did a lot of session work. Okay. And then I started to develop a reputation as a touring drummer, session player, you know. And then when I got into Mo's band, I started to write. And then I started to get recognized for my writing. And then I made the switch over. I stopped playing drums for a while and started playing just piano. You know, so I stopped playing drums for a while, and I started working with a lot of the people that I worked with on drums. I asked them if they would hire me on piano.
Interesting. So, what was that like, going from the drums to the piano?
It was awesome. Okay. Yeah. It was awesome, and the reason why I did that is because a lot of my work at that time that was going on in Toronto was like the jazz mainstream idiom. All the stuff on the radio, all the live shows and everything, was all the main jazz lives, like mainstream jazz, right? So, and to a lot of gigs, I had to play a lot of straight time. Okay. And after a while, I just felt like, you know, I just had enough of that. Yeah. You know, especially when I'm hearing Tony Williams play and all these other guys play, and they're taking it, and Jack DeJohnette. When I heard Jack DeJohnette, he totally popped my brain cells, you know. Right. And I decided, I got to check this out and get into this whole other realm of playing and hearing the drums. Yeah. And so then I decided, okay, for a while, I'm just going to leave the drums alone and play piano because I have way more freedom in expressing myself playing the piano. Nobody's going to turn around and say, just play the time while I'm playing the piano. Right? I'm already playing the time.
Right.
When I'm
did you do that to other drummers when you were playing the piano?
No, I never did that.
No, good for you.
No, I never did that. No, as a matter of fact, they say, come on, man.
Yeah.
Just give me some more. Give me some more stuff. Just get out there and kick my butt, you know?
Right. That's great.
Because as a matter of fact, when I worked with Dizzy, like, he fell in love with my time right away. Mm. He took his microphone stand that he used to be in front of the band, and he planted himself right beside my ride cymbal. Wow. On every concert. Wow. And he'd do his shuffle and his shuckle all the time. And he said to me, just keep kicking my butt all the time. Just let me know where one is after every 8 bars. Yeah. You can do whatever you want. Wow. So he gave me a lot of freedom.
That's fantastic.
Because he was very rhythmically orientated.
Yeah.
And with Dizzy, you know, I could play a lot of stuff for Dizzy, as long as I was just kicking his butt and really giving it to him, you know. The more I kicked his butt, the more he loved it. Right. So he would just draw it out of you, right?
Amazing.
And he gave you the freedom. He gave you the freedom to play.
Yeah. Tell me the story about you connecting with Dizzy Gillespie and how all of that came about.
I met him in Stratford, Ontario, for a big jazz festival in the summertime. He was one of the guest artists, and I was in the house band. And everybody was all excited and sort of nervous to meet him. Sure. And I remember sitting behind the drums, and I see him coming closer, and my heart's pounding. This is like the guy I used to watch on TV all the time. I was in diapers when I was born 1953 when he did that concert at Massey Hall in Toronto. Wow. with Charlie Parker and all those guys, and they made that famous album, Jazz at Massey Hall, in 1953. I was just born then. Yeah. And this guy was like doing all of back then. So when I got to meet him, when I was in my 20s, it was awesome. I was just like a little kid. I was so excited to meet him. He comes up there and he has a trumpet in his hand and his head down like this, and he's just looking at everybody, and everybody doesn't want to look at him. They don't know what to make of him, you know. And I'm just like, I can't believe it's him. I can't believe it's him. Like, hey, Diz, how's it going? You know. And so as soon as he counted, I think we did Night in Tunisia as a sound check, right? His famous tune. Man, it was like a racehorse for me, just busting out at the gate. As soon as he counted, the tempo started, boom! My energy, I just like, boom, right off the top. He just turned around like, who is this kid, you know? So we did our sound check, and then everybody took off, and he went to his dressing room. I went to his dressing room, and I knocked on the door. And then we hung out for a while in the dressing room, and then we went out for dinner, and I never looked back. We became like real tight.
Yeah, so you were pretty bold. You were enamored. This is one of your musical idols, but you were like, you were going to show your stuff as well, and you wanted to connect with him.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. No, I wasn't afraid to play. Yeah. You know, but on a personal note, I'm very sociable. You know, I like mingling and connecting and hanging out and having a good time. That's what it's supposed to be all about. The joy of the music, right? Exactly. Not supposed to be so serious. It's so serious, you know. Yeah. You know, so I'm not saying I wasn't nervous. Of course I was nervous, but sure. You know, I got over it, and then over the course of 4 years, like, he laid on so many great stories and taught me so many things. Yeah. Like we were doing one gig one night on a gig, and we were playing, and he kept turning around, and again, turning around, looking at me, and that was fine. It wasn't a heavy, you know. Yeah. And then after the gig, you know, go back to our dressing room, a hotel room, and then I went to his room, knocked on his door. I said, hey, you want to go out to get a bite to eat or something? So we went out together, and I said, hey, what was those looks you were looking at me? He goes, was I? I said, yeah, like every once in a while you turn around and look at me, like, what was that all about? Oh, yeah, I'm going to show you something. He took one of the little placemats that was in the restaurant, these paper placemats, right? Yeah. He flipped it over, and he wrote out the 16-bar phrase. He said, Buddy Rich laid this on me, man. I'm going to lay it on you. Learn it, you know? So it's 16 bars of these accents. Go, learn it, memorize it. That's what he said to me, right? Wow. So I did. I took him literally. He didn't say anything more than that. Yeah. Learn it, get it into you, right? Yeah. Wow. So I did. Like, actually, one thing that Jim Blackley taught me was that it takes 28 days, 30 days to create a new habit, right? Yeah. Yeah. The process of osmosis, right? Yes. Where I called it compounded interest after a while. Like my whole development after that is based on that. Like, you want to learn something new? You take it super slow for 30 days. Every day, make sure you do it every day, though, for that same amount of time, if it's 10, 15 minutes, and you do it for 30 days. And at the end of the 30 days, then you really understand it. Then the next 30 days, you start to get it into your body, right? And after the next 30 days, that's 3 months now, you own that thing. And you don't have to think about it anymore. You don't have to think about, okay, I'm on bar 12 now. What was that? Oh, I got to go back and look at, bar 10's like this. Yeah. No, you don't even think about it anymore. It's just coming out of you, right? So, and that's from practicing super slow every day, the same time, you know, and then another month, and another. So it's 3 months before you actually own that thing, you know. And I've lived by that principle in everything I do, and it really works. I think that's what propelled me to such a high level so quickly, by using that process. That's great. And so Dizzy laid this thing onto me, and I just took it in, and then it started to come out. And then the funny thing started to happen is, like, he go, and I'm going, all the stuff. Then I started to become aware, all the big band writing, all the phrasing, all the singing, all the dancing is based on that 16 bars that he wrote out for me. In that 16 bars, there were all these different combinations that you hear people write in, and the rhythmic punctuations, right? More than anything, which drives the music, and the thing that pushes the beat forward, right? Right? Buddy was so good at just playing on the edge of the time, right? Just right up. He'd start out, zap, right away. You're right, right up on the time.
Yeah.
As opposed to like playing down on the time, which tends to be loggy, heavier, right?
Behind
like
the beat?
Yes. I had never heard you play. But I think of it as a whipping thing, like, and dancing. Like when you watch Fred Astaire, it's like before that downbeat comes on his foot, he pushes off with the other foot. So there's actually an upbeat that happens first, then the downbeat. It's the same in this action.
Yeah.
The arm goes up, flicks, then the downbeat comes, right?
Yeah.
The ripple in the water, right?
Yes.
The ripple doesn't happen until there's a force that pushes it first. Right. And the force comes up and then pushes down, right?
Right.
And so that's that whole principle, and that whole 16 bars is incorporated into all that. And I just took it in, and then everything just went poof, holy moly. Wow. I totally get it.
Fantastic. Right? Yeah. So you toured with Dizzy. Also, any recordings as well, Howie?
Not too many recordings, no.
Okay.
We did some radio recordings, live recordings, stuff like that, you know. Yeah. But a lot of tours, just major mega tours, super shows with different people and stuff like that. Yeah. That was fine with me, you know.
Sure.
That was cool with me. The experience that I got from all that was like so valuable.
Right. One of the masters, right? Dizzy Gillespie. Yeah. How did that, was that when you, it ended after you said 4 years? When you... In
my fourth year, I had this kind of out-of-body experience. So we were coming back from Art Park, going somewhere else. We do a concert there. And we were having dinner on the airplane. And it's like, by then, Dizzy was like 72 years old. Yeah. And I'm looking at this. It's like I literally thought I was out of my body looking down at us. As I'm looking at this, and I'm thinking, wow, Dizzy's 72. He's still on the road, still touring. How come? You know? Yeah. And then I went, well, who cares? How come? Like you go out, you tour, you play, you do concerts. That's great. You know, you make a living. You're doing this. You know, so. But he had no family legacy, right? Like he went from one city to another city. Another city, was on the road a lot. Never talked about his wife, to me, anyways. Okay. I know he had a daughter, but he never talked much about it. And had a lot of women. You know, all these women wanted Dizzy. You know, and at that time I had 3 little kids. I thought to myself, wow, this guy has an incredible music legacy that I'll probably never have. Right, because he changed the face of the world with his music, but he has no family legacy, and that made me feel really sad, you know. And I thought, is that where I'm going to be going? Like all these years, and when I'm in my 70s, I'll be alone too, on the road, staying in one hotel room to the next hotel room, and no family legacy. And I thought, no, I don't want that. To me, my family is like the first and foremost. Yeah. Everything comes from that, right? Otherwise, I would have never got married and I would have had kids, because I was perfectly happy being a professional musician. And I know I have friends that are still single, don't have no kids. Yeah. They're perfectly happy living their life, still playing music, you know. But I wasn't wired that way. You know, I come from a big family. I wasn't wired that way, you know. So I decided, I think I'm going to take a break from this and stay at home, find some work in the city so I don't have to travel out of the city, so I could raise my kids. Because I know when I did some work with Oscar Peterson, and he would talk about this subject, his biggest regret, he would say, is, I wish I was a better dad. Yeah. You know, I wish I would have been a better dad. Sure. You know, been there when my kids needed me. Right. But he was like a mega superstar. Right. Everybody wanted him, and he was touring all over the world all the time. That was his life, right? Sure. So, you know, do I regret that? No, because I'm 65 now, and I still have lots of time, and I'm doing it, right? Oh, yes, the world has changed, and things, but I like the place I'm at. You know, my kids are growing up. I have grandchildren. You know, my daughter's a professional musician. I'm teaching my little 7-year-old granddaughter how to play the piano, and it's like, it's so enriching. You know, so for me, like when I go to bed at night, I think about how lucky I am to have this great family, right? And I still have all this opportunity to work on my music. That's just how it worked for me. It works differently for everybody, but that's how it worked for me. Sure. You know.
And I mean, that's a huge sacrifice. I honor you for that, because I think that's a big deal. It's very difficult you hear, like you just said, a lot of musicians have some regrets later on. What was that conversation like with Dizzy when you came to that decision of like, I'm going to change this up? What was that conversation with him like?
Well, we went on a big tour. We went to Rio de Janeiro, Sao Paulo, a number of cities, and then we went over to Latin American countries. We did like a 2.5-week tour, and my third child, my son, was born 6 hours after he was born. I was gone. Wow. Goodbye on this tour, right? Yeah. And my heart was tearing, and I was really torn. You know, it was a huge success. Everybody was into it. Everybody was doing their thing, partying, all the stuff, the women, all that kind of stuff. And I went, I'm just not in this space at all. I just left this, like my son at home who was just born 6 hours ago, and I'm gone for 2 weeks, 2.5 weeks. I didn't see him at all, and I couldn't handle it. It was really messing me up. And so we finished the tour, and we were back on the airplane, and I remember he got up and he goes, man, it was just so successful, they want us back next year. And everybody's going, yeah, yeah. And I stood up and I went, count me out. Like that. And everybody stops. What? You know? And then I had to explain myself. I said, I can't do this anymore. Can't do it anymore. I got a young family at home. I don't want to regret later in life that my son's messed up because I wasn't there for him, or he's mad at me because he doesn't know me and I was never there. I don't want any of that stuff happening. Like, to me, it's so important that I could be the best dad I could possibly be first, and then a musician second. Because I did so much already from the age of 14 up until 31. I did so much already. So I was depressed for about a year after that. Just dealing with the fact that, oh, I'm not going to work tonight. Oh, I'm not going to do that session. I couldn't go to any concerts. I couldn't watch any music because it just would tear me apart inside, right?
So you totally got out of music for a while.
I did, except my practicing. Yeah. My practicing would ground me. It would center me. And as long as I felt, as long as I'm getting better all the time and I'm growing and my bar keeps raising, I could live with that for now. You know? And that was my peace. You know, I was still restless. You know? But now I'm come back into it. The world has changed. It's totally different. So I have to reinvent myself. But I am doing that.
So tell me about the music now, Howie. You're playing again and you're teaching after connecting with Dom Famularo. How did all that come about?
Well, I wanted to take my drumming to another level. And I never thought that by embarking on this journey with Dom that it would just open up so many other possibilities. I wanted to keep things alive, and I figured, okay, you know what? It's time that I focus on some other aspects of my drumming that I've kind of let go, because I've been, you know, there was a thing that I'd come down into my studio and I go right to the piano. If all my instruments are set up, I'd only go to the piano. Be practicing, writing, just totally filled me up because it's got the harmonic, rhythmic, and melodic thing all in one, right? And so I figured I need to feel complete by playing this instrument, you know, so I still practice that more than anything else. I come downstairs and I hear, hey, what about me? And I go, it's okay, don't worry, I'm coming. There would be like this little game I play with myself with the drums, you know? And after I did this big fundraising concert, that's when I decided, okay, I want to keep this energy going. And this friend of mine, Memo, told me about Dom, and I checked Dom out. So I figured, okay, I was staying in touch with Dom. I said, in the new year of last year, I'm going to come and study with you. Okay, great. So I finally met him. Before I met him, he asked me to send me some stuff of mine, like send me a bio, any recordings I have. So I had 3 albums. I did 1 solo album, and I did a duet album where I'm playing piano and I have a bunch of guest artists. And then I did another album where I have a larger ensemble. I'm playing piano, percussion, drums, like the synths, all that kind of stuff, you know. So I sent all that stuff to Dom, and he sent me an email back. He was totally blown away. And then he said, geez, man, he goes, you have so much stuff going on. He goes, like, and it's such a high level, you know, like, he goes, like, I have so many students and so many drum students, none of them play the piano at the same level, you know. And he goes, how did you do that? I said, well, I've been playing the piano for 30 years, right?
Yeah.
And studying and playing, and just like I've been playing the drums for over 30 years, right? So
Amazing.
the vibraphones and composing all those years, because I started when I was so young,
Right.
you know?
Right.
And I owe it all to this guy, Jim Blackberry, because he was the one that actually said, learn how to play the piano, learn how to compose music,
Yeah.
become a musician's musician. It will make you a better drummer. At that time, I turned my head around, but I'm so grateful to him to this day. So going back to Dom said, what are you doing with all this stuff? I said, well, you know, I mainly practice and get my own gigs. And he got upset with me. And he said, that's very selfish of you to be doing that. He goes, at the level that you're playing, you should be paying that back and helping and enriching other musicians. Not like I'm the best at what I do,
yeah.
but he just feels like you have so much to offer. Why are you not doing that? You know, it's like, it's not about getting like 150 students and making $1 zillion. It's about giving something back. And he said, if you are not doing that, you are part of the problem that's wrong with the business today.
Okay, interesting.
You know? And that just hit me in the face, and I went, okay, you know, that makes total sense to me. And then he started grooming me. You know, he helped me. I changed my grip, actually. I went from traditional grip. Now I play only match grip.
That's a big change, right?
It's a big change.
Yeah.
I played my whole life traditional grip.
Wow.
But I was getting problems. I was hurting my neck, my back, you know, and I couldn't figure out why. I know that Dave Weckl has a lot of physical problems too.
Okay.
You know, I know that Vinny did. He's changed to match grip. You know, like a lot of guys have changed. I don't know if Dave has.
Okay.
But I changed like 7 months ago, and I'm flying around the drums, man.
That's awesome.
Like my left hand, Dom said, try to get your left hand to be as strong as right hand. So everything I've ever done with my right hand, I do with my left hand.
Wow.
And now I don't even consider playing traditional grip anymore. Okay. And my speed has increased, my strength has increased. Wow. You know, so my drumming has improved. And then I've taken that. He said to me, do everything with the left side of your body. Brush your teeth, wash your face, comb your hair, cook all your food, turn the key in the door, drive the car, everything you can think of, the left side of your body. Yep. I literally took that to heart, and I started to practice a lot of left-hand exercises on the piano. And then my writing changed because I started to write a lot more things from the bottom end of the left hand. And so now my whole musical thing is opened up because of Dom showing me this one thing on the drums, changing my grip, saying, you know, when you play this way, you're using 4 muscles. And when you play this way in dramatic position, you're using 13 muscles. And when you play French grip, you're using 11 muscles, you know. So why would you want to use 4 muscles, you know? And then twist your body. And then I started to watch all the videos. I'd watch Buddy play. Buddy, I could spot Buddy's playing a mile away just by the sound of his single stroke roll. I think he still has the smoothest and fastest single stroke roll to this day, you know. And that was traditional grip, right? He had a phenomenal left hand. But when you watch him play, his body was always leaning and twisting this way. And according to Dom, because Dom was friends with Buddy, he had physical problems, right? And I experienced similar physical problems in the neck, the shoulder, and in my hip from twisting all the time. And so I made the switch, and I never looked back. So now I'm doing that. It's improved my piano playing, my composing, and now I'm teaching more and getting myself out there. And I've joined a number of educational programs, and just Dom is just really pushing me to do it because I agree with him. It's really important. You know, I don't need to do it.
Right.
I want to do it.
Want to do it.
Like, so I don't need to say, I need to teach because I need to make the money so I can make a living. Like, I've already been making my living doing something, you know.
That's right.
But it's something that I get a lot of satisfaction out of, and it's really enriching. It's really enriching.
Right. Yeah. And so where do you want your music to go now, Howie?
So what I'd like for myself is to connect globally with a lot of the great players. I want to be able to increase my student load so I could connect more with people from all over, because I find that very fulfilling. Sure. And it challenges me. And I learn every time I teach something new. It opens my mind, and I learn new things, you know. And then I practice differently. I develop all kinds of things. So it's like, for me, it's important to always be evolving. Even I feel like I'm 65, but I'm getting younger every day.
Sure.
You know, and so I want to tour a little bit. I want to continue on my quest as an educator, and I want to connect with. I'd love to work with Chick, but I don't know if that will ever happen. You know, but I'm certainly capable of doing that. You know, I definitely want to. Dom said to me last week, he goes, "You need to focus on the LA and the New York markets more, and get out there more often, and expose yourself to these cats, and let them know who you are, and get out of Toronto more." You know, so that's my daughter lives in LA.
There you go.
My son married a woman from New York, so I'm going there all the time, anyways. So I'm, as Dom always says, I'm sure he said to you, step by step, step by step. You know, so
that's right. That's right. That's fantastic.
So that's what I'm doing.
Yeah, you know? That's excellent. And then, you know, I do like to try to ask folks sometimes around the business of music and how some of that's changed, the stuff that works, the challenges around that, any wisdom that you can impart to other musicians around that.
I don't think there's a rule of thumb anymore. When I was growing up, it was the land of plenty. In every major city in North America, even in Europe. The world has totally changed economically. There's so many things that have just collapsed. And the focus is, as much as we all hear music is so healing and we all need music, they're not funding the music the way they really should. It doesn't have the monetary value it really should have, you know. So there's that standard joke, oh, you want to be a musician? Don't forget to sign the oath of poverty before you do, you know. But I don't believe in that. It's like, because through Dom has showed me there's so many ways and avenues of making an income through the music business. And you need to be creative and not restrict yourself to just what the status quo is. There's a lot of my associates that are really like, there's an apathy that's kind of set in, you know. Oh, it's changed. There's no more live music that used to be. You can't make a living anymore just playing. You got to teach. You got to do this. You've got to do a number of things. You got to be very versatile, you know, to be a musician in the world today.
Yes.
You know.
Yeah, you got to diversify. And do you do lessons through Skype as well?
I do lessons through Skype, and I do lessons through my studio. I got a beautiful studio here.
Yeah, it looks it.
I like to do this in my studio because I can record the lessons and then give them a disc to go home with.
Nice.
So they can listen to themselves, you know.
That's great.
Speaks 1,000 words, right?
Of course, exactly.
Yeah. I actually teach my drum students from the piano.
Wow.
Like, the way my setup is, like, they sit on the drums. First, I start on 2 sets of drums, and we play together. I like to see what they have, what's going on, and then I set them on the bigger set of drums beside my keyboards. We log into the headphones, and I record them at the same time, and then I start to play things like different grooves, whatever, and they play to it. They love it because, and I love it because depending on how far advanced they are, gets me going, and I can get into like 10 minutes of an arrangement, on and on and on. And I set up things for them to play solos, fills, everything else. And a lot of times I'll stop them. And it's the quickest way for me to get them to understand the relationship musically of what's going on with the drum set by me sitting at the piano while they're playing the drums. And I say, okay, stop for a minute. Here's what I'm doing on the keyboards. Try this on the drums. And then I'll play this on the keyboards. Now, what do you think of this? And they go, oh, I get it, you know. And a lot of times, like, you'll teach somebody something rhythmically on the drums. They'll go home and they'll work on the drums, and they don't have enough exposure to playing with other people, right? And there's not enough feedback. And a lot of times it takes years of, like, you know, hard knocks before you actually pay your dues and figure it all out. So I really shortened that whole time frame by just getting right onto the piano, have them on the drums, and then getting right into the meat and potatoes of what they need to understand about what it takes to relate musically from the drums.
I love it.
Dom said to me one thing. He said it. This is not me. So it's not my quote. He said, there's a lot of great drummers out there that are doing amazing things, but they're not great musicians. And I went, oops. Okay, I didn't say that. Okay, I would never say that.
Yeah.
All right, I would never say that.
Yeah.
But he's got over 2,000 students. He's got this incredible global reputation.
Right.
He can say that.
That's right.
I can't say that.
Exactly. Yeah. But you teaching people that way on the drums with the piano probably saves a lot of people when they finally do play with someone that the horn player or whatever is not going to be looking back going, what's going on?
It's instantaneous. It's instantaneous. Like as soon as you point it out, okay, so you either can keep repeating this thing or not, you know?
Yeah.
So like Dom said to me that if I lived in his neighborhood, he'd make sure that every one of his students would come and have some lessons with me so they can get that musical sort of indoctrination, right? To help them become more aware.
Right.
It's not like I'm better or worse. It's just you want to grow overall musically, right?
Exactly.
And the more, I mean, there's some guys like, I don't know, Dave Weckl, like what musical background he has.
Yeah.
The guy's brilliant.
Right.
The stuff that he hears.
Sure.
And there are guys out there that are born with that gift.
Yeah.
And they have that musical awareness and they play the drums and holy moly, you know.
Right.
But a lot of us don't have that. You know, we have to acquire that over time.
Yeah, you got to learn that skill. Sure. Yeah.
And we can.
Exactly. So if somebody wants to take lessons with you, Howie, through Skype or whatever, how can they get in touch with you?
They can get in touch with me by my email address. That's my best way, HowieJSilverman@gmail.com. Or HowieSilverman.ca is my website if they want to check me out.
So for younger musicians then, lastly, Howie, who want to get to be where you are musically, professionally, what advice would you give them?
Really good question. One of my younger students said to me the other day, I had to start laughing, but I felt really, I felt his pain. He said, what does it feel like to have had a career like yours? You know?
Yeah.
Because he's a good drummer. He likes to play in big bands only. And like sort of like 70s, 80s style big band.
Okay.
You know, not more contemporary, you know. Sometimes like the Dixieland sort of larger ensembles, right? There's a very small market for that, right? And you can't make a lot of money if you're just going to play the big bands all the time. They're not funding that, you know. And so, and the danger of focusing on one idiom, like you have to be very versatile. You have to be very versatile. There's so many languages that are spoken out there today. There's so many cross fusions today that are exciting, you know. And if you're going to be part of the music world, then you can't create limitations in the mind, because what that does, it will depress you, right? It will fixate you into a way of thinking, and you go, oh, I can't do that. Oh, I can't do that. Oh, that's not available anymore. Oh, well, that guy's doing that, you know. It's so important to remain positive, you know. And it's easy to say. I guess it's all our challenges when we wake up every day. You know, you feel grateful that you're getting out of bed and you're up and moving. You know, but aside from that, it's like, it's so important to challenge yourself to stay super positive, because with putting out that kind of energy, you'll get that energy back in very unusual ways, you know, in very unusual ways. And so to me, I'm not limiting myself anymore to any particular avenue. Oh, I'm going to go after that. Oh, I'm going to go after that and that and that. I'm just going to be involved in music, period. And wherever it takes me, it's going to be a pleasant surprise, you know? You know, and when I do a gig, I'll do one gig one time. Last time I did quartet. I played piano and I hired a rhythm section, right? And we did nothing but standard jazz tunes. But I said to the guys, no arrangements, right off my head. I'll set it up. You guys come in when you're ready, right?
Wow.
I love to play that way, right? Don't call the key out. Don't call the tune out. But I'm not going to like throw any curveballs to anybody that's going to make anybody feel uncomfortable. But I wanted to play that way in that situation. Next time I played a concert, I took an 8-piece Latin ensemble together and I played drums on it. And I wrote all the music, arranged all the music, and I had rehearsals for it. And I wanted everybody to play the music that was written, but there was lots of freedom within that, you know. And so each time I play a different gig, I try to create something different. You know, so I don't get bored. You know, and I'm always growing and improving and changing things. You know, I don't want to get labeled as oh, you're a jazz musician. I don't even know what that means. Right. When people say to me, are you a jazz musician? I don't even know what that means. Right. You know, I don't know how to answer that. Right. What kind of music do you write? I said, I don't know. I guess maybe it's world music. Yeah. You know, I'm affected by the world, so and I write music. And one time I'll write this kind of thing, another time I'll write that kind of thing. It's just the music that I heard at the moment, and I don't like to classify it, right?
Right. And you got to keep it interesting for you, right? So, Howie, this has been fantastic. I really appreciate it. This has been a real pleasure talking with you, not only hearing your story, but the history lessons. I mean, you've had an amazing career, and now this is a new chapter. Howie Silverman. Yeah. Thank you so much, Howie Silverman, for being on Musicians on the Record. Absolutely.